Hey there, friends. Welcome to this episode of SelfKind, a podcast for highly sensitive people. I am your host, Erica Webb, and I am so thrilled that you are here. So, what I wanted to talk about today was a couple of things that I think highly sensitive folk sometimes gloss over a little bit in terms of their importance to their well-being. And this is something that I don't hear talked about all that often, but it has been prompted by some discussions that have been happening in the High Sensitivity Australia Facebook page, which is a brand new Facebook group. If you are not over there, I highly recommend you come and join us. I'll pop the link into the show notes. But something was mentioned in that group, and I thought, you know what, let me talk about this because I think it would be helpful for everyone to hear. But first, if you're new around here, welcome. I am Erica Webb. I am a registered counsellor, yoga teacher, somatic exercise coach, a highly sensitive person, and also diagnosed autistic ADHD. So I know the world of being sensitive. I know the world of feeling like you don't fit in. I know how hard it can be to find the mix of self-care and support that makes you feel like you can just function well in the world. So welcome. You are in a great space. So what I wanted to talk about today is two things that I think as highly sensitive people we really need, and we often discount how important they are. The first one is the opportunity to process our thoughts out loud. And the second one is the opportunity to have really deep conversations. Now, let's start with the first one, this tendency to process out loud. I haven't really done any research onto how common this is, but I hear it a lot. And what it really is about is whether we do our processing, thinking about how we feel, think, inside, like in our head, or if we have a need to do it out loud or to do it through expression. Now, that has certainly been my experience as a human. I am very much an external processor. Sometimes I don't know what I think until I either say it out loud or write it, out loud, or express it in some way. I know other people, and I live with one, who definitely does more of their processing on the inside. And so they sort of sit quietly and they'll figure things out in their own head before they then express kind of like their final conclusions. Whereas I really need to talk it out. I need to hear myself or see the words to really understand, oh, that's what I think. And in my experience, this is reasonably common amongst highly sensitive people and in the neurodivergent space. And my theory, and like I said, I haven't done any depth of research on this, so maybe I can follow that up with seeing what the literature says. But in my experience, part of the reason for that, certainly in my world, is because we're seeing things from different angles, and we tend to be making connections that might not be made by kind of more linear, logical thinking. And so when you're pulling things from different places and bringing them together, that can be kind of hard to do unless you have some way of externalizing those ideas. And I think that's what we do when we do that external processing. Now, the challenge with this is that as highly sensitive people, sometimes we might have encountered, situations where people just don't want to listen. Or we've been rehashing the same thing over and over again, and people are like, really? Are we still talking about this? And so we can have a tendency to potentially shut down and to stop verbalizing out loud and to try to process out loud. And I think that if that is our way of processing the world, if we shut that down, that is to our detriment. The second point is the need for depth of conversation. And I think that these are really quite interrelated. I think that these are almost very, maybe they're the same thing. Maybe they're just very similar. Maybe they sit side by side. But we know that sensitive people tend to dislike small talk, right? We don't really want to talk about the weather. We don't really want to talk about your trip to the supermarket. We're not interested generally in chit chat. We want to talk about deep stuff. We are quite existentially oriented. And again, if you are not in the company of people who want to go there with you, it can feel kind of lonely to have the desire to have those conversations, but to have no outlet for it. So I wanted to bring this up today because those two things might seem kind of like inconsequential. Like, is it such a big deal if you can't process out loud? Is it such a big deal if you just have to have small talk with people? But in my experience, it is actually quite a big deal. And I think that there's a couple of things, I guess, to sort of say in terms of like, what do you do with that information? And one of them is to find the right spaces and relationships where those kinds of conversations and that kind of external processing is available to you. That could be in your close relationships, or it could be the need to sort of develop communities and relationships with other highly sensitive people where those conversations can be had. I also think that this is what a lot of highly sensitive people come to therapy for. And I want to talk a little bit about that because as a counselor, I work primarily with highly sensitive and neurodivergent people. And often I hear from people how much they appreciate a counselor or a therapist who can kind of keep up with their way of thinking. Because it's not necessarily the way that everybody thinks. And so I think that sometimes in that therapeutic relationship, it opens up space to have the kinds of conversations that you crave and to help you do that external processing where you don't have to worry about like the rules of give and take. When you are in a session with a counselor, a therapist, a psychologist, you are the center of attention. That's literally the point. And so you can externally process, you can throw out all your ideas and really feel confident if you've got a good sort of therapeutic relationship with that therapist, feel really confident that you're not being judged in that. Some words that I often hear come out of highly sensitive people's mouths, including my own, are the words, does that make sense? You might have heard yourself say them, right? Like you'll be telling a story or you'll be sharing an idea and then you'll be like, does that make sense? And we have to have room to have those conversations to sort of throw out those ideas because it can feel a little bit like I'm not making sense. More often than not, you are. Like I hear those words often and I always think, no, you make like I'm with you. I'm right there with you. But if you don't have those kinds of relationships in your life where, you know, people kind of are on the same page and they want to have those sorts of conversations, then it can, like I said, feel quite lonely. So I really just wanted to bring this up in today's episode as some food for thought. If you are a highly sensitive and or neurodivergent person who feels like there's something just kind of not enough, it's not uncommon as a highly sensitive person to feel like just a little bit unsettled. We might be looking for all the places that we can engage in, more self-care, more support, all of those things, but don't discount how important that depth of conversation and opportunity to be heard and to do your processing out loud. Do not discount how important those things are to your overall sense of well-being. And if you don't have the relationships or spaces where it feels safe to do that out loud, journaling can have a really similar effect. Typing out your thoughts, writing your thoughts, doing art, using movement, anything that actually allows you to externally express rather than just trying to do the mental gymnastics of manipulating everything in your head without outlet. Because we can do that too, right? Like that's the thing that's super interesting. When you are highly sensitive, you tend to be quite cognitive, or that's been my experience anyway, where there's just a lot going on in your head and you kind of can manipulate the thoughts and put this here and put that there and, kind of do that mind map thing in your own head. But I think sometimes the clarity only comes once you get it out. And so whether that is verbal, whether it is literally like verbalizing just out loud to yourself as well can be helpful, journaling, drawing, artwork, movement, anything that allows you to express can be really helpful. And find those relationships and communities, whether it is with a therapist or whether it is with friends, online spaces, where you can have the kinds of depths of conversation that you crave. Because it might seem like a small thing, but I actually think it's a pretty big thing. So yeah, my two thoughts, my two pennies, my thoughts. Anyway, I would love to hear what you think. Are you an external processor as well, or do you do more of that processing on the inside? I don't think that all highly sensitive people do this the same way. Absolutely not. So if you're listening and you're thinking, I don't think that's me, that's cool. We all have different processes, but that depth of thinking, that desire for rich and deep conversation seems to be fairly consistent across the board, but I'm sure there's exceptions to every rule. But I would love to hear from you. Are they important things for you? And how do you kind of allow that to happen in your life? Where are the spaces? Who are the people? What are the processes that allow you to engage in those sorts of conversations? I would love to know. And like I said at the beginning, my lovely colleague and friend Matt Glover and I have just recently launched High Sensitivity Australia, which is a website and a Facebook group, and we're going to be running some workshops and things down the track as well. And I would love to invite you to join us over in our Facebook group. It is very rapidly growing, which is exciting, but a space just for highly sensitive people with a particular focus on Australians. You can join if you're not from Australia, but there is a question in there about like, why would you like to be in this space? So you might even just mention that you listen to the podcast. So I'll pop the link for that into the episode show notes. But if you go onto Facebook and just search High Sensitivity Australia, you'll also find it really easily and really quickly. All right, that's it from me this week. I did take a couple of weeks off because I went on a little trip with my family. And the honest truth is that whenever I take a break, I have a really hard time getting like my creative juices flowing again. And I came home and thought, I'm not sure what to say. I'm out of practice. So I did take a couple of weeks off the podcast. So thank you for your patience. Maybe you've been waiting for another episode. Maybe you haven't. But thank you for your patience nonetheless. I will be back next week. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you soon.